Hey guys, today's video is on solving specifically quadratic equations with a squared, and we're going to solve for them their solutions. Some important vocab words today are solutions. But when we solve for solutions, solutions also mean the same thing as solving for what are called roots, or you can solve for zeros, or basically they're just like the x-intercepts of the graph. If you aren't familiar with what quadratics are, quadratics have this sort of shape. They're called a parabola, and we're going to focus on graphing them a little more next unit, but we're going to solve for solutions of a quadratic, meaning that we're going to find on the graph where their x-intercepts are, and we do this by following the steps, by setting them equal to 0. We are going to factor, then we're going to set every factor equal to 0, and then solve. Let's do a few examples together and find out what their solutions are. Number 1, it's already set equal to 0, so that's easy. Next, we're going to factor. It's a trinomial, so we're going to do the magic numbers. We want to find numbers that multiply to get 3, but add to get 4. Those numbers are 3 and 1, both positive. So we put those magic numbers in the middle with the x. And we just factor. Draw a line through the middle, take out a GCF here, x plus 3. No GCF here, so we take it just to 1, also x plus 3. And then we write our answer as x plus 1, and then x plus 3. So far, no new stuff. But here's what the third step says. We take each of these two factors, and we're going to set them equal to 0. That means we're going to take x plus 1 and set it equal to 0, and then we're going to do x plus 3 and set it equal to 0, and see what we get as our answer. So when x plus 1 equals 0, we get x to equal -1, and x plus 3 equals 0, x equals -3. And then we write our final answer as x equals -1, comma, -3. Let's do number 2. It's factor number 2. First, you have to take out a GCF before you factor. The GCF is x. So then we're left with x minus 8 equals 0. But that's it, because we're not left with a difference of square. We're not left with a quadratic in the middle. So we have two linear factors. Now we set this first factor, which is just x, equal to 0. And then we set the other factor, which is x minus 8, also equal to 0. Solving, this is just x equals 0. And then solving the other one, we get x to be positive 8. And you write your answer 0, comma, 8. Not too bad. Let's scroll down and look at number 3. There is no GCF for number 3, but it is a difference of square. The difference of square is x plus 8, x minus 8, because you do the square roots of each, equal to 0. Now we set each piece, each linear factor equal to 0. Solving for each of these, we get x to be -8, comma, and then solving for this one, we get regular 8. Let's scroll up and look at number 4. This one looks like a little tougher one to factor. There is no GCF, so we have to do a times c to get our magic numbers, multiply to get -14, but add to get positive 13. You will find your two numbers are positive 14 and -1. They multiply to get -14, but add to get 13. Rewrite those in the middle. Draw our line through the middle. Take out a GCF here of 2x. Take out a GCF here of a -1. So we both have x plus 7 inside the parentheses. Then we write our final answer as 2x minus 1. And then x plus 7 equals 0. Finally, we can set each factor equal to 0. This equation gives us x equals 1/2. This equation gives us x equals -7. And those are our two answers. Let's do number 5. What's weird about number 5 is it's not already set equal to 0. So let's set number 5 equal to 0 first. By adding over 2, now it is 3x squared plus 7x plus 2 equals 0. Now we can factor this. I'm going to leave this up to you to try to factor to find your magic numbers. And then do your grouping, and then set your two factors to see what x equals at the end. Number 6, let's do that one. Let's move over everything to the left. Minus x squared, minus x squared. So we have 4x squared plus 7x, and then I'm going to minus 2 over as well. And you just leave the 2 on the side because there's no other like terms to combine this with. All right, there's no GCF, so I have to do A times C. So we want to find numbers that multiply to get -8, add to get +7. Those two numbers are 8 and -1. Let's write that in the middle here. So we have 4x squared plus 8x minus 1x minus 2. Draw the line through the middle. Take out a GCF over here. GCF here is -1. And we write our final answer as 4x minus 1, x plus 2 equals 0. Again, last step is to set both of our linear factors equal to 0 to get our solutions, aka roots, aka x-intercepts. Solutions, x equals 1/4 here, x equals -2. So those are our two answers. In today's video, I want to do one more problem, a pretty important problem with you guys. Let's say we have 2x squared minus 18 equals 0. Pretty basic problem, but you might run into some issues with this one where you have a GCF of 2, and after you take that out, you have x squared minus 9 equals 0, and then we're going to save that for later, and this difference of square here is x plus 3, x minus 3, so your final answer is 2x plus 3, x minus 3 equals 0. Now when we set all of our factors equal to 0, we're going to set x plus 3 equal to 0. We're going to set x minus 3 equal to 0. You do not need to set the GCF equal to 0 if it doesn't have an x. So the 2 doesn't have an x. You don't need to set it equal to 0. If it had an x, you would. So our answers are just -3 and +3. Okay, just a little side note to jot down about solving. Let me know what questions you have, and have a good night.